The ancient world operated on a simple, brutal logic: expand by the sword and rule by fear. Security meant total domination. Enter the Mauryan prince Ashoka. He wanted the throne, so he systematically murdered his own brothers to get it, earning himself the title Chandashoka, or Ashoka the Fierce. He cemented his authority by building an execution facility disguised as a palace. Visitors walked into lush gardens and then directly into a torture chamber that later texts simply called Ashoka's Hell. He did not see himself as a monster. In the context of 3rd century BCE geopolitics, zero empathy and absolute dominance were the exact traits required to do the job. By 261 BCE, Ashoka controlled almost the entire Indian subcontinent, but one independent kingdom, Kalinga, refused to submit. So he sent his army to the eastern coast, turning the green fields surrounding this body of water, the Daya River, into a slaughterhouse. The resistance was completely crushed. 100,000 Kalingans were killed in combat, and another 150,000 were captured and forcibly deported from their homes. Ashoka toured the battlefield after the victory. He walked through miles of burning villages, rotting corpses, and orphaned children wandering in the rubble. Standing in the mud of Kalinga, the statistics became bodies. He wasn't looking at a conquered province. He was looking at 100,000 individual families erased for his own pride. The triumph didn't feel like power. It felt like a massive, irreversible mistake. Guilt often makes leaders abdicate or retreat. Ashoka stayed. He kept absolute power over the Mauryan Empire, but steered the entire weight of the state toward a new framework, Dhamma. Dhamma was a secular framework for social cohesion. In an empire filled with dozens of different cultures, languages, and religions, Ashoka established a universal civic ethic based on tolerance, nonviolence, and mutual respect. To make this public, he carved his deepest regrets directly into stone across his territory. Looking at these ancient Brahmi inscriptions on this weathered rock face, you are reading the exact casualty numbers of the Kalinga War, followed by an emperor's permanent public apology. Apologies require action, so Ashoka created the Dhamma Mahamantras. He replaced his conquering generals with a massive civil service corps, explicitly tasked with ensuring fair trials, preventing the abuse of state power, and managing public welfare. He took the raw emotion of remorse and funneled it into the gears of a functioning, continent-wide bureaucracy. The Mauryan war machine consumed massive amounts of wealth and labor. Ashoka took that entire logistical apparatus and pointed it inward, turning his empire into a sprawling construction site. He laid down a vast network of new roads for trade, lined them with thousands of trees, dug wells in drought-prone regions, built state-sponsored rest houses and free hospitals for the poor. His policies also extended to the environment. He banned animal sacrifices, drastically reduced meat consumption in his own palaces, and established some of the earliest documented veterinary clinics in history. His foreign policy shifted entirely. As you can see on this map, instead of deploying legions of soldiers outward to conquer neighboring kingdoms, in Greece, Egypt, and Southeast Asia, Ashoka dispatched emissaries carrying texts and philosophies of peace. He demonstrated that a diverse, massive population could be stabilized and unified through public investment and soft power, rather than the constant threat of military force. Ashoka still had to govern an absolute monarchy. He collected taxes, enforced laws, and managed a massive economy. Perfection is an illusion, and a pacifist state still requires the gears of administration to turn. Even with all his reforms, political borders remain fragile. Just 50 years after Ashoka died, his dynasty collapsed, and the Mauryan Empire fragmented. But his ideas survived the fall of his borders. He heavily patronized Buddhism, helping it grow from a small regional sect into a global philosophy. This monumental stone architecture, the Great Stupa at Sanchi, physically anchors that exact ideological legacy. The physical territories dissolved, but the ethical frameworks he constructed continued to shape entire civilizations for the next 2 millennia. In 240 BCE, Ashoka's daughter traveled to Sri Lanka carrying a cutting of the Bodhi tree. Today, as devotees climb these stairs toward its branches, they are visiting one of the oldest living, documented trees on Earth. an unbroken biological and historical link to Ashoka's diplomacy. His specific political symbols also survived. The detailed carving on this stone capital, specifically the 4 lions and the 24-spoke wheel, sit directly at the center of the modern Indian national flag and government emblem. History has largely forgotten the names and accomplishments of countless ancient kings who spent their lives perfecting the art of cruelty. Yet Ashoka is remembered globally. Dynasties always fall, and the Mauryan borders were gone within 2 generations. But the logic Ashoka left behind, that a state's ultimate worth is found in its compassion rather than its cruelty, is the part that never stopped growing.